Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is the Governor, Kane Womack, and you're listening to FunBelt Podcast.
If you didn't know before, now you know why they call this the FunBelt.
Very excited about the Sun Belt.
You know, while other conferences have been breaking up, our conference has become stronger.
The state of Sunbelt football is the strongest in our history.
I saw FunBelt Conference, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I got to join the show. This sounds a lot of fun.
So back again for another episode of the FunBelt Podcast. I'm Shane Mettlen from the Daily News Record. I got it right.
Got it
Jeremy
correct.
doesn't always get it right. That's why I'm doing the intro today with Jeremy Harper from Hellraiser. I got his right as well.
It's very easy to remember.
And from the Warhawk Report, our fearless leader, Dusty Thibodeaux. We are actually in fall sports season with women's soccer going on. I think we all know like what I think we've all been following that super closely here the last few days because, for one thing, it's the only thing going on, but
it's the only action we got.
Follow Sunbelt sports as close as anyone, and I think it's looking pretty good so far. What do you guys think?
Georgia State got that whooping. They put up a 12 spot in soccer.
On who?
I don't even remember who they were playing, but 12-0. It doesn't really matter.
You're just showing off at that point.
12 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Humiliating. You know what? If I'm the opposing coach, I just call timeout and I just silently take the team back to the bus, and we move on to the next game. Is
this like a dine and dash where you just one at a time? You start walking out to the bathroom.
Is that what would be the football equivalent, like a American football equivalent of that score, 12-0? What would that be? Would that be something like, I don't know, 98-0 or something like that?
Yeah, like I can't even imagine after when it gets to double digits how you're even still taking shots.
Yeah, put in all the freshmen. Hey, put in fans. Let them get a crack at it.
I like to think that Georgia State only scored 2. The rest were on goals.
Anything's possible when you look at that score.
So JMU probably did pretty well. I believe they're 2-0. Is that right?
They are 2-0. I saw the opener. I didn't see the second one, but
who else is 2-0, Tibbs? We know you have that data at your fingertips.
The Monarchs,
okay,
the Herd,
Dukes,
the Panthers,
yeah,
Viva La Boobcats, and the Jags.
Whoa! All right, those are 6 teams that we expected to be 2-0, right? They're all pretty good. Any big upsets though? Like, is it all like Southwest New Hampshire State, or are we seeing some good programs down there taking it on the chin?
No, the Cajuns are 1-0-1. They got a win over South Florida.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah. All right.
So there's your big possible upset, or maybe it was expected. Early on in the year, you wind up playing directional universities as kind of your warm up, just like you do in football. Southern Miss though, 0-2. But in the words of former co-host Ben Moore, bless their hearts.
Who do they get?
A 2-0 loss to Ole Miss, respectable.
Okay.
A 4-1 loss to LSU. Who scheduled that? Why? Why are you opening with back-to-back SEC games?
That's how you toughen up your team. Yeah, Arkansas State, by the way, opened with number 8 Arkansas and received a beatdown. I only saw the first half before I gave up. It was something like 6-0 when I left. I don't know what the final score was. And then beat a directional team. So they're 1-1. So Southern Miss, the only 0-2?
Only 0-2. Everyone else has at least notched a win.
Even ULM. Are you telling me even the Warhawks have a win?
ULM got screwed by giving up a goal that should have been offsides at Tarleton State. And rebounded with a 3-1 win at Sam Houston.
Sam Houston, that's CUSA soccer now, right?
That's CUSA, and it was a road win at CUSA.
So not only that though, but volleyball is about to queue up. Am I right?
Friday.
Now, is there any program who has recently put together a brand new volleyball complex in the Sun Belt, one that rivals any Power 5 volleyball complex, perhaps the best volleyball complex in all Sunbelt sports.
If you had seen what that arena looked like when they were hosting JMU basketball games there a few years ago, and how it's been renovated, you'd been pretty blown away, I think.
I've seen the pictures. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
It looked great. Yeah, I'm sure that recruits are looking at that and go, that is where I want to play my volleyball.
Old Dominion's not too bad. It's pretty nice. Maybe it's just not as new.
Yeah.
With some of the bells and whistles, and one of the nice things, at least for me, because I'll be sitting in the stands, is they put all nice chairback seats in there, not bleachers, which is I think where they got a lot of people beat. South Alabama, they've got their own volleyball specific gym. I think that's the big deal, is when you can separate volleyball from the other sports, where Marshall's the one that kind of surprised me a little bit. They haven't ever gone for a separate volleyball facility, because that just gets tough in November when basketball is ramping up and you've got 3 teams all trying to use the same floor all the time. It gets tough. And I think that's what the coaches at JMU are most excited about, is that they leave their nets up 24/7 and players can go in and work out whenever they want. And there's not fighting to schedule practices around basketball games and concerts and everything else in the same building. So I think that's one thing they really like. And I think there's 6 teams in the Sun Belt that at least have their own volleyball gym, where it's kind of.
But did any of you catch on the Twitters, which is now X, by the way? I know I keep saying Twitter. I was a fan of Twitter, not a fan of X, but that's fine. On the X.
I just said Twitter.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's Twitter.
Yeah.
Did you see Cliff Ellis, head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers basketball team, singing Susie Q in front of a live audience? There was some video of this. Did you guys catch it?
In the Dominican.
Was he in the Dominican?
Well, they're down there right now for a little round robin, round country exhibition game. I saw that they were 1-1, at least entering our Tuesday broadcast of the show. Maybe the Shants are good. I know that they lost Mustafa from last year, so no more Egyptian wonder for the Shants. Maybe Grayson McCall's playing some basketball for all we know.
He could. I bet he could suit up and give you 10. I'll tell you one thing though. I saw. I bring up Twitter a lot because I'm on Twitter a lot. But somebody.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, well, this is where I get all my information. These accounts that just kind of put together lists. The top 10 receivers in the Sun Belt East, or the top 12 assistants in the Big 12, or whatever. Well, this one had the top 10 basketball coaches for the Sun Belt. Number 1, Cliff Ellis. I don't know if I agree with that.
That was not a great list. No, I honestly don't know how I would rank the basketball coaches, but it would not be like he had them.
I mean, he's probably the all-time winningest coach, I'll give him the number 1 slot there.
That's
not even my biggest objection, honestly.
Oh, you have a bigger objection.
I think it's kind of hard to keep, a Dustin Kearns or TJ Johnson off the list entirely. Those guys have done a lot. They do less with more, or more with less every year.
I didn't notice they didn't make the list. All I saw was that was on top. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's done good things. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a solid basketball guy, right? We all like him. It's just you think of all these, Scott Cross and Kearns and all these great basketball coaches coming out of the Sun Belt. You don't necessarily think, well, maybe Coastal's the good one.
Yeah.
The strong got stronger though in basketball. Scott Cross hired Greg Young, former UTA head coach, the guy that succeeded him who succeeded him at UTA is now his associate head coach. The Trojans now got 2 amazing guys leading that program. That's going to be my preseason pick for men's basketball.
Ooh, hey, jumping ahead a few weeks. Basketball, that's smart. Yeah, getting ahead. When do we start talking about basketball? The games start November?
Yeah. They'll start doing some media days and stuff in October, I'm guessing. So
Back to New Orleans.
I forget, Tibbs, did you go to New Orleans last year for that?
No.
Okay.
Because they told me, I think on a Saturday, and it was like that Monday or Tuesday or something like that. There was no way I could have made it.
You know who should go? Shane
Noah.
Mettlen. Well, we know Noah, who truly cares about the integrity that his journalism is going to be there. But I think maybe from the FunBelt podcast, it should be Shane Mettlen. I mean, he made us go to the football one.
I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to. They didn't pick a good time for it last year or give us much notice, but
There wasn't much notice. Wasn't it kind of like, hey, we just decided to have a live meeting?
I think it was sort of like, hey, remember how we wanted to like make basketball a bigger deal?
Yeah.
We should do a media day.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Wait, tomorrow. Yeah, a lot of us have real jobs. All right, so football. Are we in the? Is this week 0? Are we in week 0? Are we currently living inside of week 0?
Yes, where we have games kicking off on this upcoming Saturday. UMass and somebody are on ESPN, while USC and San Jose State are on the good old Pac-4 gas station pump express.
I would much rather see UMass play than. And who's UMass playing?
New Mexico State.
Yes. What a
coming off a bowl game. Like New Mexico State. That's a good one.
Former Sunbelt punching bag, New Mexico State, playing UMass, projected by many as the worst team in FBS this year. That, to me, is going to be a great game. I cannot wait to watch that game. What else we got? We can't watch San Jose and USC because many of us don't have the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-4 network. We don't have that. Who else is playing in week 0? Does anybody have a schedule up?
In week 0,
good work.
So Saturday, August 26th, we have Navy and Notre Dame in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, okay. All right. Kind of a gimmick game. I like it.
The debut of Jack State and Rich Rod in Conference USA, hosting UTEP.
Okay.
San Diego State and some action with Ohio. Hawaii Vandy with Vandy's construction-ridden stadium.
I saw a photo of this. It's like their whole end zone's gone, right?
Yes. I don't know why they decided to start that August 1st, but that was their game plan, and they're the smartest guy in the room, so good for them.
Well,
and then closing out the nightcap, Florida International and the school in Ruston.
That would be Louisiana Tech for those who are not filled with hatred for the Bulldogs, which I am not. I'd say bring La Tech into Sunbelt. That would be fantastic. Should we be upset that Sunbelt shut out of week 0? I don't think so. I think those guys. I want week 1. I wouldn't want to play on week 0. Would you guys want like your favorite Sunbelt team playing in week 0?
Depends on what the niche was.
Like, give me an example.
Playing in Dublin, Ireland. I think that's pretty damn cool. Mexico City, well, not Hawaii right now.
No.
Maybe in Canada.
Okay, so like a cool location, you're saying that would you'd be fine with a week 0 game. What if it was
a preview of the Bahama Bowl?
What if it was like ULM versus I don't know, like some storied program like Michigan, and you played it on a battleship?
I'm not sure that would work as well. It's a basketball.
I'm picturing it surrounded by like P-40 Warhawks and
if
so
you
it's
all too deep or too far out of bounds, off goes the player. You got to throw out the life buoy.
I like the Canada idea. Tibbs had, Sunbelt's put up the billboards in New York and LA, like building their brand up. Go to Toronto, play in the Sky Dome, and
and since footprints don't matter, maybe we start recruiting some Canadian schools.
Well, maybe not so much football players, but like, maybe some Canadian kids will see their first American college football game and be like, oh yeah, that coastal Carolina on the beach looks pretty nice, or those mountains in Virginia or wherever, like
Arkansas State in recent years have picked up a couple Canadians, and they've been all right. Yeah, we had a guy named Justin McInnes, big 6'6" receiver, ran like a giraffe. He was great. He was a Canadian.
Or we talk about adding sports all the time. Maybe we'll have ice hockey teams.
I know.
What is that?
Tibbs would love to have an ice hockey team.
I would love to have hockey, but yeah, I always joke that what is that? Because there was a minor league hockey team in Monroe when I was in college there, and I think they made the playoffs one year and basically got one and done. But yeah, it was a good drunk fest, good fight fest. That was about it.
Yeah, I used to watch the hockey in Memphis.
The River Kings.
River Kings, thank you. Yeah, and that's good fun. You got guys slamming against the glass. I would take some hockey. I don't know what Sunbelt hockey would look like.
I was joking about Sunbelt hockey, but
no, I'm not joking. Speaking of Canadians too, I was going to save this as a parting shot, but I'm just going to go ahead and deliver it now. This is how you know you're getting old, guys. So it was announced who would be inducted into the Arkansas State Sports Hall of Fame. And one of them was a guy that was a good friend of mine when I was at college there. He was a Canadian golfer, Brian McCann, played from, I guess, 1992 to 1996 when I was there, being inducted into the Arkansas State Sports Hall of Fame. Wily Canadian. And that was the thing, that Arkansas State actually recruited a lot of Canadian golfers because you can golf, almost 365 days a year in Arkansas. In Canada, you can only golf maybe 8 months out of the year if you're lucky.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter you were saying you were friends with Brian McCann. I thought you were talking about the baseball player.
No. That's a different Brian McCann.
Yeah, I figured it out. I looked at the X more closely, and I figured it out. But
he was a golfer, and quite frankly, he would not have made it a second as a Atlanta Brave. He was, He was one of these guys that I would take to the Tunica Casino. We'd load up my car full of Canadian golfers, and we'd go to underage to Tunica, and we'd all be like, okay, we got to play it cool, right? We got to look like we're adults so we don't get kicked out. And he'd wear his baseball cap backwards and immediately order something stupid at the bar like a Caesar and then get us thrown out. And he'd be like, I don't know why we got thrown out, because you look like a kid. You didn't order a beer. You ordered a dumbass drink. Don't you know how to be an adult?
Speaking of being an adult, the Army is set to invade the FunBelt once again this year. And we had Joe from Go Black Knights to give us the breakdown of Army as they get ready to host and travel into the Sunbelt. Jeremy, since 2019, the good old FunBelt has been invaded by the Army every single year.
It makes you wonder, why doesn't Army just join the Sunbelt?
It's that regional rivalry, and we have no military experts. No. I mean, there's the Cajun Navy maybe in South Louisiana, but there's not really the military presence to justify having West Point in the league.
Let me make an argument. Actually, it's not a bad decision. Let me make an argument. You got Louisiana, you got Fort Polk, Georgia, you got Fort Benning, Carolinas, you got Fort Bragg, you got Fort Jackson. Decent military presence. It's probably actually a better decision than what we were talking about earlier, them joining the MAC. I actually would prefer the FunBelt, I think.
We got Fort Smith at Arkansas, so we got plenty of bases for Army to land and mount their assault on the Sunbelt.
But you see, the military guys, Joe there from GoBlackKnights.com joins us. They're going to dictate it, man. Maybe we just wave the white flag and allow Army in already. I mean, they're already playing at ULM, then host Troy and Coastal Carolina this year. And like I said, every year since 2019, they've been filling the belt against the Army. Fared well against ULM, but not against other teams. Joe, tell us, what are these Black Knights going to be like this year?
Dusty, that's the $1 million question. Only I'm not being paid $1 million to answer it. But
it's a parlay bet.
So I got to renegotiate my contract with Rivals and Charles. So It could go anywhere, right? They could honestly be as good as 9-3, 10-2, or they could totally spit the bit and come out like 3-9. There's a ton of question marks. As we were talking about before we came on air, the top 3 quarterbacks graduated. Andre Carter, our best defensive player, is off to the Minnesota Vikings. Marquell Broughton, who led the team in tackles, was two-year defensive co-captain, graduated, going to go do great things in the Army. And most importantly, Brent Davis and the flex bone is out, and Drew Thatcher and a brand new gun triple option is in.
You kick off the year headed to my neck of the woods, Northeast Louisiana, to play the Warhawks, a team that has not fared well against Army in the finale of the 3-game set, resulting in the COVID signature, so to say. What can we expect whenever we see those Black Knights come into town? And I mean, is this going to be another whooping for the Warhawks, or do you think the Warhawks have a chance this year, knowing they're catching Army early, which is usually the best time to play them?
I think if last year's game in Mikey Stadium, it was close for the first half, and then Army kind of pulled away late. The Warhawk fans did get to see potentially one of Army's 2 starting quarterbacks. This year, Bryson Daly came in mop-up duty at the end of the game and ran for like a 30 or 40-yard touchdown, I think. So Bryson's got a 50-50 chance of being a starter this year, I think. I think there's that. I think, like you said, I think it's good for the Warhawks that they're catching Army early. Brand new offense, brand new quarterback. Army could put the ball on the ground a lot, which we know – their formula for success has been winning the turnover battle. They win almost every single game, like most teams in college football, win almost every single game that they win the turnover battle. The kind of number one core value of the offense has been no turnovers, right? And there's a good chance that some turnovers happen. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Army defense. I think Army goes into the game. Most of what I've been seeing, they're about a 2-touchdown favorite. I'm an Army guy, but I would probably take the Warhawks and the points at home, honestly. If Army holds on to the ball, I think they have a good chance of winning by a couple of touchdowns, but they start turning the ball over, giving the Warhawks extra possessions, there could be a lot of problems.
The other factor of that, Joe, is we're banning Jeremy from watching it because he didn't watch the first half of last year's game, turned it on at the end of the half, and we saw what happened. So
I was completely going to take the blame for that. First of all, Tibbs was so excited about the game. He had it marked on his calendar. I think he had friends over. Is that right? Didn't you have a watch party?
We had an alumni watch party.
Yeah, and it was like, and I was, I'm cruising through Sunbelt scores, see the Warhawks are ahead. I'm like, all right, good for the Warhawks. I like this. I'll switch it on. And it was just immediately just Army just pounding through the defensive line. Like there was I don't know. I guess what you need to do is ask me to watch the game, Joe, and then I'll go ahead and
Jeremy, I'll get you payment. Can we make sure ULM sets you up with like a special sideline pass or something? Maybe that might help. I don't know.
And just even something to make it to where the game doesn't have to be so close at the beginning, so that you don't have to have that heart attack.
I don't have to stress for 30 minutes. Yeah, that would make my life easier.
So with all this realignment going on, Joe, I mean, it's stupid for everybody. It's stupid for the Sun Belt. It's stupid for the MAC. It's stupid for Pac-12 or Pac-4. Everything's stupid right now. Is it going to be stupid for Army?
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree with you, Jeremy. I think it's stupid for everyone. I don't see, honestly, how it helps anyone except maybe the SEC, if it even helps them. I think the challenge, right, is as a 1A independent, I think with these mega conferences, depending on how many conference games everybody needs to play, it makes it tougher and tougher for Army to get a full schedule, which is part of the reason the last 2 seasons you've seen them had to schedule 2 FCS teams, which at the end of the day hurts Army's bowl eligibility because they can only count one of those 2 wins. So like last year they won 6 games, but were not bowl eligible because 2 of them were against FCS teams.
What does that do also, though, when we're seeing the formation of these mega conferences, and I see kind of middle of the year, y'all go to Death Valley there to take on the LSU Tigers, number 5 preseason poll. Does it make it harder to get those games, or do you feel that that is just the way it's going to be, that you have limited opportunities to really try to sneak those on the schedule?
Yeah, so if you look at Army's schedule this year, clearly there's only one team with the prestige and whatever of LSU. They're not playing anybody else in the top 10.
Oh, wait, no, Troy. Troy's the Sun Belt champion. That's the other team with the prestige.
It's true. We do have the Trojans. So, there's not a ton of chances to play top 10 teams, which is probably a good thing for the health of the team. But they do have 3 P5s on the schedule this year. They also have Syracuse and BC, which is nice. I think for the last pretty much every year, except maybe last year, Army's had a marquee top 10 or top 20 opponent on the schedule. And I think as long as those teams have an open date, they'd be willing to schedule Army. I think we have a few. I haven't looked at a lot of the future schedules recently, but I do think we have some big ones on there for a while. The fact that they're no longer running the flex bone and able to cut people, and it's not, the offense Army's going to be running a lot more similar to Coastal Carolina, I think. So while it's still unique, I don't think the SEC schools will freak out as much about trying to face it as I remember Saban, he faced Jeff Monken when Monken was at Georgia Southern, and Georgia Southern almost beat him, right? So Saban's like, no, I would never schedule Army. But I think now that we're a little more traditional, it makes it a little more palatable. And I think, the prestige of kind of playing a historical great football program like Army is big for the fans, especially if it's around the military base, in a big military community. So LSU, I think, it makes sense for them to kind of get that one on their calendar. It's better than playing an FCS team. And, they're looking at it as an auto win against a pretty well-known D1 program, at least.
Joe, I know that you've got a couple of FCS programs on there, but you have some really good group of 5 guys on there. It's not like you're just sort of playing the bottom of the barrel. We got UTSA, which led I guess they led the conference last year. You have Troy that led their division and led the Sun Belt. You had Coastal Carolina who won their division. Air Force always seems to be good lately. You've got a lot of great matchups on this schedule.
This is, in my recollection, the hardest schedule in the Jeff Monken era, going back to 2014. Like you said, 6 teams were playing, made bowls last year. There's 3 P5s. There's a really good group of G5s across the board. Air Force is always tough. Navy's always you never know what you're going to get. That's always a crapshoot. So, the only gimmies on the schedule, and if Monken or anybody hears me say this, they'll probably get mad at me for saying there's any gimmies, but Delaware State and maybe UMass and even Holy Cross, who's an FCS, they were number 5 and their preseason number 5 in FCS. They made it to the FCS semis or quarters last year. So even that's not a walkover. It is one of the toughest schedules in Army history that I remember, not history, but in the last 10, 20 years. And so I think that presents this as a difficult season as well, which is why I've said, 6-6 Commander-in-Chief's trophy in a bowl would be a super successful season this year, honestly.
It was a dogfight last year in Lower Alabama as y'all took on Troy. It was a 10-9 final. What do you see this year as you kind of look back at that game? Do you see that being another dogfight, or do you think that it's kind of one side or the other is going to really pull away at that?
Yeah, Dusty, that was a heartbreaker. That was a tough one, right? Army blew a red zone scoring chance, which is unusual. Turnover in the red zone. Second half, the offense completely bogged down, did nothing. Troy's DC, his name's slipping my mind, but he was the safeties coach at Army under Nate Woody, so he knew that offense really well, did a great job. And then we missed a field goal to win it at the end of the game. So I think I don't know how good Troy's going to be this year. I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. I don't really know what to expect there. But the fact that the game is a little later in the season, it's in Mikey Stadium, which has been a huge home field advantage for Army. One of the best home field advantages in all of college football, actually. And the fact that Army has a new offense that I think, barring injuries, should be humming along pretty smoothly by then. I'm hopeful that actually Army wins that one by at least 10 points or so.
And then, as you mentioned, this new Army offense is really similar to Coastal Carolina. Maybe it's the trap game because it's right before an off week and then the Army-Navy game. It'll be the last time also you get to face Grayson McCall. What did y'all see as y'all face the Shants in the past, and what are you expecting this year?
Man, I mean, Grayson McCall is, last year we faced Sam Hartman from Wake Forest, and I think Grayson McCall is probably the number 2 quarterback we played. Grayson McCall is just a beast. He can do it all, runs that offense to perfection. I don't know what changes there are going to be with the new coaching staff and everything there at Coastal. Hard to say, if the culture will continue. I mean, I think Chadwell's going to do great up at Liberty. I'm super shocked he wasn't offered a P5 job. Like, I just think Chadwell was an offensive genius and a great culture builder. I currently have Army as an underdog to Coastal just because of Grayson McCall and some of the skill guys there. But by that point in the season, who knows? Army could be really successful, could exceed expectations, and it is a home game, so that'll help. But I think right now I'd have to pick Coastal in that one.
How has West Point really contended and competed against NIL and that whole fiasco from the NCAA?
Yeah, so I get asked this question a lot, Dusty, and surprisingly, I don't think NIL has as negative impact on West Point as a lot of people would think it does. I think transfer portal is way worse. Super seniors are way worse. But I think NIL, the way the coaching staff has packaged it and sold it is, most of the kids we're recruiting, they're not the Travis Hunters who are going to go play for Coach Prime and make millions of dollars, or the kids who are being recruited by Jimbo down at A&M to go make millions of dollars. We're recruiting 2 stars, 3 stars, right? The same kind of kids a lot of times that end up in the FunBelt, right? So, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, there's not a ton of NIL money floating around the Sun Belt for the most part. There might be a little here and there, but not a boatload, right? So what we have instead of NIL is, look, at West Point, you're a member of the regular Army. From day one, you get paid a salary. Now, it's not a lot of money. It's enough to cover your pizzas, basically. But you get paid a salary, and that increase, the amount you keep increases through your 4 years there. When you graduate, you're guaranteed a job as a second lieutenant in the Army, which I think the going rate now is about $65,000 a year. Not going to make you rich, but it's not a bad starting job right out of college. And the average salary of graduates over the age of 40 at a U.S. military academy is like $140,000 or $150,000 a year. So the sales pitch that the coaches use when they're recruiting is, look, you can make a 4-year decision and go to random mid-major G5, or you can make a 40-year decision and come here and you do what you're supposed to do and your life's going to be awesome. And now we even have the carrot that if you're really amazing, like Andre Carter, you could go sign in the NFL potentially. So, I think that's kind of how they get around NIL. We're not typically recruiting kids that are going to make big money in NIL anyway. So this is actually a better deal for them in a lot of cases than, say, going to Fordham or Buffalo or wherever.
Joe, always great to talk Black Knights, and looking forward to that invasion once again of the Army into the Sun Belt this upcoming season.
We're excited about it. Always provides great games, great competition. Got a lot of respect for the teams in the Sun Belt. So thank you guys a ton, Dusty and Jeremy. Appreciate you having me on.
Shane, you missed out as we talked with Army as they get set to essentially join the Sun Belt
Again.
Playing Troy, ULM, and Coastal Carolina. But more importantly, they have a new offense similar to Coastal Carolina. Interested to see how that rendition goes not only with Jeff Monken at the helm, but how are the Army fans going to feel as they start venturing more and more away from that wishbone into that kind of flex offense there that we've all grown accustomed to. Enough of that, though.
And now for something completely different.
Plugs, promos, parting shots. Shane, what do you have?
Guess I'll just plug dnronline.com/sports. You can read all of our coverage of JMU and the rest of the Sun Belt. And yeah, just check it out. I'll keep it simple tonight.
Now, what does DNR stand for?
Daily News Record.
Pulitzer Prize winning Daily News Record.
That's false advertising once again.
Jeremy, please give us something better than just a simple plug.
It's a plug. I'm sorry. I'm in it for the money. I'm trying to get this bag, Tibbs. And I put together like somebody. All right. Remember in 2017, Tibbs, there was this dark moment in Sunbelt history where Sunbelt teams, like in a matter of like 2 weeks, got beat 3 times by FCS programs. To me, it was
Shit
one.
happens.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't view that as harshly as I do, but I do. And I was like, oh God, the Sun Belt is really struggling. Since then, since that time in 2017, the Sun Belt has only been upended one time by the FCS, and that was by Texas State. Incarnate Word in 2021 upset Texas State at Texas State. That's the last time a Sun Belt team has been upended by the FCS. But technically, the last Sun Belt team to lose to an FCS team, guess who it is? This is very technical, though. It's James Madison.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, because they lost. They didn't win championship there last year. So
no, what was it? North Dakota State in the
North Dakota State.
Yeah, that's right. So that was. I don't know if that truly counts, but my point is, since that time in 2017, the Sun Belt has really kind of put that cork into that sort of that mess with the FCS where we are constantly at odds, we're in danger of losing all the time. So it's been 5 years since, well, we've had that one unfortunate loss to Incarnate Word. And then Texas State took revenge, right? They took the coach, G.J. Kinney, right? So that's what happens when you mess around with the Sun Belt. We will take your coach. So anyway, I wrote a little story about and listed every last FCS loss for each Sunbelt team. Take a look at it on hellraiser.com and see if you agree with any of my insight and wisdom.
That was a painful one for ULM, up 24-0 at the half before losing 27-24.
You always remember the last FCS loss for Arkansas State was against UCA, and it was bitter game.
And the worst part about it is the receiver that caught it was a Monroe kid that was not, per the coaching staff, good enough to play at ULM.
Oh God, a revenge catch to win the game. Damn.
Yeah. I'm just going to plug as well. Warhawk Report dropping preseason game previews as we get closer and closer to the season opener against Army. It's here, guys, and I am looking forward to it. FunBelt podcast twice a week. It's going to be good times. Recaps, previews, and maybe even Jeremy showing up sober.
That would be a first.
Now Taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is Taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.